Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'll be doing a movie review for Dear Evan Hansen, the film. This is the film adaptation of the hit Broadway musical, which came out a few years ago. Back in, was it 2015 is when the original show came out? Kind of crazy just to think about how long that show has actually been out on Broadway. Just kind of crazy. Anyway, before going into my review, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching on Odyssey. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So Dear Evan Hansen is the latest film from director Steven Chbosky, I think is how you pronounce his name. And to be honest, I've actually liked a lot of Chbosky's work before. He has done films like The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I really liked. He also did Wonder, which I thought was a phenomenal film from 2017. It was actually one of my favorite films from 2017. And he's always been, I think, very good at being able to handle school settings and younger characters and kind of high school settings, because even though the film Wonder focuses more so on the younger star of the film, played by Jacob Tremblay, it also focuses on the older sister who is going through high school and feels very much like she has not been given as much attention in her life because of the issues of her younger brother. And so he has always been able to really kind of handle those stories, very, very well. Unfortunately for Dear Evan Hansen, I really feel like this is probably one of the weakest films, at least from the films that I've seen from him. Interestingly enough, he has had some other credits here as a writer on films like Rent, for instance. His directorial debut was in '95 with a film called The Four Corners of Nowhere, but his breakout film was back in 2012 with The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which again was a film that I genuinely liked. This movie, though, just for me falls apart on so many different levels, and I think the biggest is that this has to be the most non-musical musical that I think I've ever seen. And it really comes from the very beginning of the movie, where it starts off with this beautiful song, Waving Through a Window. If you've never heard the soundtrack before, I would highly recommend getting the Broadway cast specifically version of the show, because it's got beautiful music by Ben Pasek and basically the group known as Pasek and Paul, Benjamin Pasek and Justin Paul, who do beautiful stuff. They've done other films like La La Land, which I was not a big fan of, but then around the same time they also did The Greatest Showman, which I was a huge fan of. So they've done a lot of really good stuff before, and I think Dear Evan Hansen is no exception to that. But in the very beginning of the movie, you have this beautiful song, Waving Through the Window, and it's the character of Evan Hansen singing, and normally, or at least the way that it's presented on stage, is that when he gets to school, all of the different high schoolers are walking around him in these different patterns, and it's a very powerful sign of him just being isolated and alone on the outside. Everyone has their back turned to him, and it's just, again, very powerful imagery, and they're all, of course, singing. In this version of the show, though, he's singing, and then he's walking through high school, and then no one else is singing. So even though you're hearing background singing, even though you're hearing chorus singing back up for him, no one else on screen during that song is singing at all. So it was just kind of weird dichotomy of just normal life, but then he's singing, but there also is chorus singing, but no one else can be visibly seen singing. And so you're like, wait a minute, how does this make any sense? Where is this chorus coming from if you don't even have people pretending to be singing in the background? Instead, there's just a bunch of extras doing what typical extras do without pretending to sing. It was very odd, to say the very least, and it was very unsettling. Then you have another moment in the film where there are these three characters, and it's this almost like this fake flashback sequence that happens in the film, and it felt very musical theater, and I really liked it a lot. But then after that moment, it goes back for the rest of the movie as just being this, again, weird musical, non-musical, especially whenever there are people around and there are multiple people that are supposed to be singing. Again, just the crowd-wise scenes just don't really work, and it just doesn't make any sense. So that was a big issue for me, was the fact that it's, again, one of the most non-musical musicals that I've ever seen, and I think some of the choices that were made there were just really bizarre and really just did not work on many different levels. Not to mention, of course, one of the other major issues that I have with this is the fact that Ben Platt, who I love as a singer, I think that his singing in the film is absolutely fantastic. I think there's a couple of scenes where it starts off him actually singing live on camera. At least that's how it was perceived by my ear. And then eventually it goes to the studio version of the actual soundtrack, because not all of them are singing live on the actual screen. But the fact that he, as a 27, 28-year-old, is playing a teenager, and obviously when he first found this role, and was this role, he was a good 6 years younger, and so he would have been in his early 20s, and so still very much not high school age, but at least closer to high school age to be able to kind of pull it off. In this film, you can just tell just how much older he is, and they try and cover it up with this weird makeup, and at first I was like, are they using makeup? Are they using CGI too to try and de-age him in some instances? I think it may have just been makeup, but he just looks really bad. It just looks really kind of creepy. In a lot of ways, it just, I mean, look at one of the thumbnails I made a couple weeks ago, and I do my typical weird, desaturation and stuff, but I mean, I really think that it kind of just expresses more so just how creepy he looks with the makeup choices that they made specifically for the movie, and I, again, was very distracted by that throughout the film. Now, I am still very much drawn by the musical score because there are a lot of the songs, most of the songs, in fact, from the original show are also present in this movie. But was also another thing that kind of really let me down was that they cut several songs from the show, including a song in the very beginning that's supposed to be sung by the two moms in the show. So in a certain way, their roles are kind of diminished. You also have the role of Connor, who plays the kid who dies in the very beginning of the play. Not really a spoiler there. It's kind of a key part of the actual show. But anyway, the kid who plays that, or the high school student who plays that role, the actor that plays that high school student, is very much diminished as well. In the play, he actually has a presence throughout the entirety of the play as almost this ethereal other, or as like this, again, this memory, like this false memory of what is being created in the mind of Evan Hansen. And that character, once again, has this one song in the very beginning where his presence is there, and then all of a sudden it's just dropped. And then they drop that character, drop some of the songs, including one called You Will Be Found, or sorry, not You Will Be Found, but No One Deserves to Be Forgotten, which is one of my favorite songs in the show, and it's just completely dropped altogether. And then they add a new song into it and then raise the level of a role played in this film and basically change a character as well in the process. So let's see, the character of Alana Beck, played by Amanda Steinberg. So again, I thought that she did great in the film as far as, the acting. I think she did great. Singing-wise, she did great too. But they raised her role in the film to something that was not in the original play, while at the same time diminishing the roles of someone like Colton Ryan, who does a great job playing Connor Murphy. Again, I think really captured the role of Connor Murphy very well, in fact. And it was just very weird that they decided to make these decisions. On top of that, they also make certain changes to the story. Like, instead of the character of Larry, who is the father of Connor and the father of Zoe Murphy, Zoe being the love interest of Evan Hansen in the film, instead they decide to turn him into a stepdad. And in the original play, it's just, he's just a distant father in that relationship. And instead, they decide to turn him into a stepdad. And there's a lot of changes and a lot of subtle things that are done that, honestly, when you step back for a second and look at him, it's almost like any change that they made to the story was to try and be, quote, more inclusive. And it was already kind of off the bat from the very beginning when, in the high school itself, literally every poster that you saw in the film was, okay, here's the LGBTQ plus community table, right? It just happens to be meeting and happens to be presenting on this specific day. And then there was the, diversity is what makes a strong poster. And again, all of these things, just at first I was like, okay, the rest of the movie is very much true to the original story, and it is just very powerful. These will just be minor gripes that I have. But when you add that, and then you add on top of it the changes that they make to the characters, taking out the various songs, and making these changes that seem to try and, again, kind of take off all of the different demographics, right, that would be watching the film, including those that have, step parents, who are the product of the... It was stuff like that I think really just made this film fall apart on so many different levels. And it really is sad because, as I said, the music for this film is fantastic. There are a couple of moments where I was very much moved, and in fact, even moved to tears because the songs are so powerful, right? The song You Will Be Found is still very powerful, and I think they actually present that song. It's probably one of the best songs and best renditions of the songs that they did, specifically in the film version, as far as, being respectful of the original source material and doing a good job with it. But other than that, I feel like a lot of the songs really kind of fall flat, especially with the fact that they brought in someone like Julianne Moore. And it was one of those things where I immediately when I saw that casting, I said, okay, they're trying to get some type of name recognition for this movie. And in the end, it didn't work because the film is a financial failure. It's a financial flop. And so I asked the question, okay, so then why did they bring her in? It's not because she's known for being a tremendous singer. And obviously, she is known for being a pretty good actress, but she singing the song So Big, So Small at the very end of this film when she's trying to comfort her son, when Evan Hansen kind of goes through his, rise and fall, and the mom, his mom is still there for her, for him. It's very unemotional, and it was very soulless in a lot of ways. And you could listen to the original Broadway track and get more emotion just listening to the original Broadway actress doing that song than even just watching what Julianne Moore does with that song on the screen. And it was, again, things like that really just took me out of the film and made it very difficult for me to completely enjoy. I can't imagine people going into this film who have no knowledge of the source material, who have not seen or listened to any of the music, and really coming out enjoying it, because there are just, to me, so many just holes and so many things lacking, and so much of that special it factor there. And I feel like it's very soulless at times, and it's really sad, because sometimes you can see, obviously, where there are, actors that, kind of make their presence known on stage and do a very good job at it. And then there's others where they don't really transition it as well. Or there's sometimes where there's plays that you try and transition into film, and you realize, okay, no, this would have been better suited for the stage instead. And I feel like there's several moments here where some of the songs you're like, okay, maybe they could have filmed this better. Maybe there would have been a better film out there if someone else had taken control of it. But to me, it just seems like this was a very rushed show. There aren't a lot of musicals that get a movie version of them this quickly after their debut. Again, this debuted back in 2015, and the film itself was in the process of being developed back in 2018, only a few years after the show had debuted. That's incredibly quick. And so it felt like almost like they were trying to kind of like jump on the fame of Dear Evan Hansen to try and make a quick buck. And it just, that's what I feel. I feel like a soulless cash grab, even though it didn't make any money and is not really making any money. It really feels like it's soulless in a lot of ways. And I think a big part of that is the fact that when you actually look to the music of the show, Justin Paul is the only name from the original duo that's actually attached to the movie specifically. So it kind of makes me wonder a little bit about where Benjamin Pasek was, and was he, choosing to be a part of this film? Was he denying to be a part of this film? Was he maybe just different? I mean, there's, I think, a lot of questions here. Maybe there's some information somewhere in here, but it really does just bother me. Anyway, here's differences from the musical, just to kind of go into it. It says, for the film, changes were made to the portrayals of the show's characters, as mentioned, along with the omission of 4 songs. Disappear, which again is a great song. To Break in a Glove, which was, it's fine. Good for You, which is one of my favorite songs. Sad that song was cut. Anybody Have a Map? Again, very beginning. I also love that song too. And again, this does mention the fact that they do reference them a little bit, because the band, I love when movies do this, when the band plays the tune of the song a little bit at one point. It also says another change was shrinking the role of Jared and expanding upon the role of Alana, making the latter the one who starts the Connor project, with Evan joining in to help, which explains the cutting of Disappear material involving Evan seeing visions of Connor, telling him to push forward with the lies to keep his memory alive. So again, that kind of a change makes a huge difference to the overall story. And also at the very end, there's another major thing they do as far as him kind of revealing the truth to the entire world, which is not something that happened in the original production. And again, I think it has a very big impact on that final reconciliation that happens at the end between him and the character of Zoe, the character that he falls in love with. And again, I think it really does have a major impact here. It says, going on as well, another character change happens in the character of Larry, whose relationship with Connor was changed from his father to stepfather due to the casting. Furthermore, again, okay, why? Why is that something that you had to do that? It just doesn't make any sense. Zoe and Evan start their relationship during the song You'll Be Found in the stage version, but in the film, it is implied the relationship starts during Only Us, as we see the flash forwards of the two characters going to prom. Additionally, Ben Platt revealed that the ending was altered for the film, described it as a kind of extended third act in which we get to see a little bit more of Evan's repentance and redemption and the work he does subsequently to make amends and really get to know who Connor was. And I like that aspect where, after everything is said and done, he learns about what the favorite novels of Connor was. And so he starts to read through all of those novels, and he starts to reach out to people who were in the rehab center that he had gone to see people who knew Connor, and is able to find a song. So there was stuff like that I did actually really like in the film, that I thought did a pretty good job there. But as I said, I think some of the changes are just so incredibly Again, so incredibly weird. Also, the fact that apparently the high school scenes were filmed at Our Lady of Mercy Catholic High School. Excuse me, if that is even true, that raises a whole bunch of other questions about some of the things that we saw in the film. But anyway, overall, I'm going to go ahead and give this film a C-. I think that it's a soulless rendition of the original musical. I would say that instead of watching this film, I would say, and I would highly recommend, that you download the original Broadway cast album, because it really is that powerful. It really is that good. And I think it is worth experiencing at some point, because the music truly is beautiful. And it's just really sad that this was able to get greenlit so quickly, and they clearly just rushed through the process and really decided to put out just, again, a soulless rendition of the original story. Very disappointing from Stephen Chbosky, and also just from the entire team involved with this project overall. But anyway, what are your thoughts about Dear Evan Hansen? Have you seen the film? Do you agree with my assessment or not? Obviously, I know there's going to be a bunch of people that probably disagree with, again, my take on some of the changes that they make, but I think that the changes are enough to really, kind of bolster it. I mean, the new song they add in there, the Forgotten Ones, or the Anonymous Ones, is a very beautiful song, but not as beautiful as the songs that they cut. And when you start to change so many aspects of the story that you kind of lose the forest for the trees, it becomes a bit of an issue. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If this video, smash that like button, loud that fire button. It really does mean a lot. Huge shout out to Bifford the Hobbit and also Kara Tharp, who are members over on locals.com. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members: Andrew Hoyle, animation commentator; Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father; Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle, 79, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Dion, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Stan Andrian, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you for being my Patreon members. And a huge shout out to my Subscribe Star members: The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss Slash, the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Subscribestar. And to my one Locals member, Robert Barnes, thank you for supporting me over on Locals. And if you want a name shouted out, or your name rather, shouted out at the end of every single live stream and video, please consider joining on one of those platforms, either Patreon, Subscribestar, or Locals. Links to that can be found in the description. Look at that top link especially. It's called the Willow link there. It'll give you links to all the social media platforms and also ways to support the channel. If you want to be an Army of Asgard level or above member, you can get access to giveaways that I do every single month. I give away 4Ks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. It is a lot of fun. Also, if you join at the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get access to all of that. Plus, you get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. We have a lot of fun. We do that once or twice a month. And if you join at the Chosen of Valhalla level, you get all of that. Plus, in your first month, you get a t-shirt of your choice and send anywhere in the world. And also, you get to be featured on the channel once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where we get to hang out and have a good time. So anyway, if any of that sounds good, check out that link in the top of the video as I mentioned. You guys are amazing and beautiful people. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.